3 years ago, I sat at my desk every single day, knowing exactly what I needed to do, and yet my hands wouldn't move. My mind was a battlefield, and I was losing. Today, I fall into flow states for 8+ hours a day, and my business scales in a fraction of the time it used to take, because somehow, against all odds, work started to feel like breathing instead of drowning. And the wildest part is this. I've built a system that makes procrastination neurologically impossible. Before we dive into how, if you're new here, welcome to Growth Mindset Project. Hit that subscribe button right now, and tap the bell so you never miss the moments when I unravel these truths, because this channel exists for people like you and me, who refuse to stay stuck. This isn't theory I read once and repeated. This is 4 years of neuroscience research I lived and breathed myself, night after night, chasing an answer to a question that nearly broke me. Why can't I just do the work I love? And here is the truth that changed everything. Procrastination is not a willpower problem. It never was. It is a neurological one, etched into the wiring of your brain, a survival mechanism twisted against you, quietly pulling you away from the very things that could set you free. And until you rewire that, no amount of discipline, no amount of forcing yourself, will ever fix it. Let me take you back. 3 years ago, I ran my copywriting business from a small desk that felt more like a prison cell some days. Every single day, I would lose focus. I told myself it was a focus problem, that maybe my brain just wasn't built for concentration. But that was a lie I fed myself to avoid the real wound underneath. It was procrastination, silent and relentless. I would scroll instead of working, watch the hours evaporate, and then look up at 6 in the evening only to realize I had done nothing that mattered. I had sat there for 8 hours, physically present, spiritually absent, drowning in shallow tasks that never moved the needle. And the cruelest part? I knew I had the skill. I had studied this craft for years. I had the talent sitting inside me like a fire that refused to catch. I just couldn't strike the match. Months turned into years of this exhausting cycle until one night I sat with myself, stripped away the excuses, and asked the question I had been too afraid to ask. Why do I keep running from the very thing I want most? And in that raw, uncomfortable silence, I realized something that shook me. The task itself was never the enemy. It was my brain's perception of it. Because if you really break it down, most of what we avoid is absurdly simple. Typing on a keyboard, speaking into a microphone, writing a few lines on paper. These are not dangerous acts. And yet, somewhere deep inside, your brain reacts as if you're being chased by a wild animal, as if you're walking straight into fire. That single realization, that one shift in seeing, is what finally let me sit down and work for 8 hours a day without that suffocating resistance. I had watched every productivity video, listened to every podcast, absorbed every piece of advice from the biggest names in neuroscience, and none of it worked, because none of it addressed this specific truth. If this feels like your story too, like you're reading your own diary right now, everything I'm about to share is what I teach inside my free community on School. You get a free flow state course, a free one-on-one coaching call with me, and access to over 570 entrepreneurs walking this same fire. The link is in the description. It takes 30 seconds, and it might be the most important 30 seconds of your year. Now let me show you why you actually procrastinate. It is not random. It follows a process, an exact, repeatable pattern etched into your neurology. Every time you take an action for the first time, your brain quietly records data. Was it painful? Was it pleasurable? Was it safe? This data settles into what I call the prism of the mind, a hidden archive your brain consults every single time you consider doing that action again. If the data leans negative, resistance rises, and you procrastinate. If it leans positive, you move without friction. This is where fear of effort, fear of failure, fear of judgment, and perfectionism are born. Most advice fails because it treats procrastination as one single monster, when really it wears different masks. So let's look at the 3 most common ones, and if you feel one calling out your name, sit with that feeling for a second. The first is fear of effort. This is when the pain of doing feels unbearable before you've even begun. Picture yourself at the base of a snow-covered mountain. You look up, but the peak disappears into thick clouds. You don't know how far it goes. You stand there frozen, torn between the desire to climb and the terror of falling. The answer isn't to sprint upward blindly, that only breeds panic. The answer is to break the mountain into small checkpoints, tiny flags planted every few steps. Suddenly you're not staring at an impossible peak, you're staring at one small step you can actually take. So when you work, don't just say record the video. Say set up the background, check the lighting, connect the microphone. Small steps dissolve resistance. And alongside this, set short 5-minute timers, 3 or 4 of them, just enough to break through that initial wall. A 5-minute timer feels harmless to your brain. An hour feels like a mountain with no visible top. The second, and perhaps the most human of them all, is fear of failure. This lives quietly beneath so many of our stalled dreams, whether it's a small task or something as vast as financial freedom. Your brain runs a simulation, pulling from every past experience, projecting a version of you walking toward that same mountain. If your history is full of strength, you feel excitement. If it's full of wounds, you feel fear. And somewhere in between, you feel that suffocating anxiety that keeps you frozen at your desk. The way through this isn't more effort, it's release. Stop clutching so tightly to the outcome. The less you need success, the less failure can touch you. Let success become a side effect of simply doing the work, not the reason you do it. And then, treat every failure as data, not a wound. Not proof of who you are, but simply feedback that the cause wasn't right yet. This quietly unclenches the grip fear has on you. And the third is perfectionism, which, if I'm honest, isn't truly its own disorder. It's a mask worn by the others. Perfectionism whispers that you cannot begin until everything feels flawless, until you feel happy enough, safe enough, ready enough. But that moment never comes, because perfection was never the destination, it was the excuse. I once worked with a client generating 6 figures a month, utterly convinced his issue was perfectionism. But underneath it, we found fear of effort hiding in disguise. Once we solved that, the perfectionism disappeared entirely, because it was never really there in the first place. If you're watching this and something in your chest just tightened because you recognized yourself in these words, drop a comment below and tell me which form of procrastination has been quietly running your life. I read every single one, and it might help me make the next video speak directly to you. And if this video has shifted something in you, even slightly, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this message reach someone else who is sitting at their desk right now, feeling exactly like I did 3 years ago. Everything you just learned, the prism of the mind, the process behind procrastination, the specific fixes for each form, that's just the surface of what I teach inside my free school community. You'll get the full flow state course, a one-on-one coaching call with me personally, and a family of entrepreneurs, almost 600 strong now, all rewiring their brains for deep, sustainable focus. If you're making anywhere between $3,000 and $20,000 a month, and you know deep down that focus is the wall between you and the next version of your life, this is your sign. Click the first link in the description, or the pinned comment, and join us. It takes 30 seconds, and I promise you, it's worth it. Before you go, watch the next video on your screen, it continues exactly where this one leaves off. And don't forget to hit that bell, because the moment you stop running from the work, everything changes. I'll see you there.